We're talking about nitrogen reduction in your corn, and we've got an award winner. That's right, Kelly Garrett, NCGA Award. We're talking to him and Mike Evans in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. We've got a great topic for you today. It's something we've already touched on a few different times at the field day at Kelly Garrett's, and also in the field with Kelly Garrett and Evans a couple of years ago, also at Johnny Burrell's field day, where they're doing trials on nitrogen reduction. Well, here's the cool part. NCGA, the National Corn Growers Association, who obviously the association that gives out awards, and our guys have gotten countless awards here at XtremeAg. Well, there's a new category, and it's a pretty cool one. It's about a nitrogen challenge. Biggest yield you can get using 180 pounds of applied nitrogen or less per acre. Kelly Garrett won the award. He'll get the award at Commodity Classic, where we'll be beginning of March in Denver. We'd like you to be there with us as well. But the point of this episode is talking about how you can get record amounts of corn with limited amounts of nitrogen. The award is neat. That's kind of like frosting on the cake. The cool thing here is the goal that Kelly Garrett sets is profitability. Doing big yield with less nitrogen is possible. They proved it. They've got the trophy. Now they're going to tell you how you can do the same thing on your farm. Tell me about the award. I didn't even know there was a category for this. So this is kind of all struck me just in the last month when you got the award. So tell me about it. Evans, are you the one that found it and applied for it?
Yeah, I think this is their second year, and they call it a pilot class. We did it last year and put an entry in, but this will be the second year of this class as far as I remember. So,
yep. All right. Tell me about the actual category. Is it only a half acre? No, you did a bigger trial. So tell me about what the actual contest that you competed in and the parameters.
It's the same as any other NCGA class entry. So that follows those parameters as far as, how many acres you combine and weigh out. The one difference is you got to prove, how much nitrogen you actually put out there. So you got to give a little bit of auditing there. We had to go through, giving them maps and invoices and stuff like that they put you through. Nothing just being open and honest with them. So a little bit of legwork, but that's about it. That's about the only difference.
As far as taking the yield, I believe if I'm saying this wrong, somebody's listening, I'm trying to do this from memory. It's got to be at least 10 acres of corn. It's got to be continuous corn. It can't be a strip crop. You can't use the end rows, and you have to take alternating passes through the field, and you have to turn in at least 1.25 acres. I think our entry was around 1.3 acres or something, because that's how long the rows happen to be. So for someone to say, well, it's only 1.25 acres, that's true. But when you take the alternating passes and you take the end rows things out, it really is a bigger sample. It's a sample of a bigger subset. And then as Mike says, so this class J, starts out exactly the same as all the other NCGA classes. But now the added twist is you've got to be below 180 pounds of nitrogen. And you got to verify that.
You were practicing for this game before the game was announced, because 2 years ago, we were in the field northeast of your house, and you were doing reduced nitrogen trials in that field when I think we had Temple there, and I think we had Matt Miles there, or might have had Chad there. We were going through this exact thing. You were rehearsing for the part before the play was even announced.
Yes, this Class J is really we're really fortunate that they brought Class J around, in my opinion, to bring and I'm glad, I'm excited that we won this, to bring notice to the calibrated agronomy team, the integrated ag team, and Evans and I, been working together since 2020 in the effort to get better, be more sustainable, improve the ROI, be more efficient, all of those things. We're working on this. And then, Evans and I meeting Jared Cook, and then being introduced to Clint Freeze and Luke Soltz, Wingrove, so there's 5 agronomists that are really working together. Evans is the point man, of course, on my farm, Evans and Wingrove. And we're just trying to make as much money as possible. We get a lot of credit in the sustainable space, and we want to be sustainable, but that's not even really the number one goal. I'm not trying to say we want to be unsustainable. The number one goal is to make a living and be as efficient as possible to reduce the input cost. And that's what we've accomplished here.
So the thing is, I'm going to go ahead and refresh the listener in case they haven't tuned into our episodes. Your favorite statement, the Holy Grail of North American agriculture is production of corn. We love producing corn. You're from Iowa, the corniest of all corn states. And then to do more corn, you got to fling more nitrogen out there. Your old man thought you needed 1.2 pounds of applied nitrogen per bushel or some crazy thing like that. Well, you did, what was your yield on this competition? 325?
324.
324 bushels of corn with less than 180. And actually, you did considerably less than 180 pounds of applied nitrogen, right?
Right. It would be 100 pounds of anhydrous in this area. Because we run a variable rate. So then we also had to send in for the audit, the prescription that Evans wrote. In this area, there was 100 pounds of anhydrous. There was about 20 pounds from the agro-liquid product, high energy N in the 2x2. Then there was about 15 pounds from the plant food, the byproduct that we spray. So there's 135 total pounds of nitrogen. But then when we look at the foliar products that Evans puts out there, there was about another 16 pounds. We totaled 151 pounds of nitrogen in this area, synthetic nitrogen applied.
Okay, 151 pounds, and you were allowed to go up to 180. You still did 324 bushel. All right, so the point is, you say, it's one of your favorite things, the Holy Grail of North American agriculture, grow more corn. To do that, throw on more nitrogen. And this is the absolute antithesis of that. You're at less than a half a pound. You're at like at 0.4 of a pound applied nitrogen here, if my math's right. And your old man thought you needed 3 times that.
Yes.
People, not only of his generation, people 5 years, people still today think you need 1.2, right?
It takes 1.1, and our soil is a big part of this. But, we had a challenge plot with AgroLiquid at Matt Miles Field Day in Southeast Arkansas. And we only yielded a half a bushel more than Matt, but we spent $50 an acre less on nitrogen. Mm-hmm. That's so the Iowa soil is a big deal, but this can be accomplished in some form or another anywhere to improve your profitability. So what the takeaway is, do you really need as much nitrogen you have? Let's try to make as much money as possible, and let's intensively manage in a more detailed fashion to improve our ROI.
Mr. Evans, we recorded an informative video with your new venture, Calibrated Agronomy, and we talked about bringing your fertility plan into the 21st century. And one of those things was about a history of over-application, and therefore we've done some wrong, and we don't like to admit that, but we have. The Des Moines River watershed. When you're in one of the most ag states in the union, and they're talking about we need to restrict agriculture because there's a bunch of fertility products that are in our watershed now. We talked about Lake Erie. That's been something I've been paying attention to for 30 years because I'm not far from the Lake Erie watershed in my farm in Indiana. This is a real thing. So in other words, cutting back nitrogen, A, it makes you money. B, we're going to start having nutrient management plans imposed upon us, I think. You?
Yeah. You look at what Temple deals with out in the Chesapeake Bay. They're already restricting phosphorus and all those applications and keeping an eye on that just because of the environmental things they deal with out there. And, when Des Moines Waterworks sued the few counties north of us on that whole nitrate deal, everybody was concerned about it then, that if it passed, then what were we going to do? There was kind of the doom and gloom, like, oh, they're going to shut us down from putting on all this nitrogen on. And it really got people's eyes opened. And, I was part of a research project up in there to kind of measure some of that stuff. So you kind of learn just by researching how, great the soil can be and what it can produce. And we've obviously applied some of that to Kelly's farm and looked at various different ways to manage nitrogen.
Kelly, we talk about you're ahead of the curve here for cutting the curve because we're helping people get where we already are. So you've been saying this now for at least 2 years that we're over applying and balance and all those kind of things, and then we're not cheering for environmental regulation. We think that's not good, but we also see it possibly coming. Here's my observation: they took tetracycline out of the drip lines in poultry 30 plus years ago, every bird in America had antibiotics in the water drips. And then they said, oh, God, if you take this away from us, you're saying about antibiotic resistance, but you know what? If we take this away, we'll never produce chickens. We're producing more chickens than we've ever produced. They're bigger and they get bigger faster than ever. In other words, we adapted. We were lazy and relied on tetracycline when we really didn't need it. I can say the same thing then about overusage of antibiotics in hog production. They started making them more judicious applications, only owners treat animals that need treated versus preventative. Same thing. The hog industry said, oh my God, we'll never be able to grow hogs. We have a surplus of hogs. There's almost no margin in pig production right now because we're so good at making pigs. The point is we keep adapting. I think we could adapt even if we had nitrogen reduction laws, which we hopefully don't get there. I think we probably are going to wake up and smell the coffee just like they did in those other two examples. You?
Yes, I believe that that's what's coming. And no, I don't cheer for environmental regulation. I just try to be a realist and look at what's coming and exactly what Temple's dealing with. The Lake Erie, the Des Moines watershed, the state of Nebraska now is testing wells. There was a congresswoman there, I believe, that I think she's got $1 million grant. They're looking at wells and they're trying to reduce the nitrate in the wells. This is coming down the pike. And I want to be prepared for it. And really, though, I'm glad that I'm prepared for it. But again, I'm just trying to be as efficient as possible. Our margins are thin in row crop production, especially right now with $4.30 corn on the board. Why be wasteful? And
well, you're ahead of the curve. The thing is, I use those examples about chickens and hogs, and I'm not being mean, but we screamed just like Evans talked about. Oh my goodness, they're going to take this away from us. Turns out we were fine. We did just fine. We don't want the regulation, but it turns out we're good at what we do. We did fine. Look at what. So if we have to cut back nitrogen, we're going to scream bloody murder that's going to hurt yields. And the reality is, I think we'll still be fine.
I agree. The amount of nitrogen that is being put on that isn't being used by the plant is either being wasted going into the watershed, worst case scenario, or best case scenario, it's being put into vegetation. Which is a stress mitigation problem, just takes more water to grow the plant. But all of that nitrogen that is being put on is not needed for yield. American agriculture does a great job of producing a very sexy looking vegetative crop. Our goal is to produce a reproductive crop.
Yeah, and I would say, Damian, too, that is like, it's a retraining your brain type thing. Like, we all thought like yield nitrogen in the last 20 years, we had to pour more fertilizer to it to get there. But our philosophy a little bit is like, nobody's going to grow a 300 bushel average across their field. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I mean, really, if you were going to be realistic, weather plays a role in all that stuff. It's retraining your brain. We're going to row this 250 bushel corn, but we don't need 250 pounds of nitrogen. Start figuring it from that way and be more realistic on your plan.
I like it. I want to get into how you actually did this so that the person listening can apply these practices and cut back nitrogen on their farm. By the way, if you're listening to this, one thing you can do, you probably are overspending on fertility because you're using fertility where it's not actually getting into the plant. Our friends at Nature's can help. Nature's is focused on providing sustainable farming solutions and helping you maintain your full potential with your crop for today and for future generations using Nature's high-quality liquid fertility powered by Nature's Bio-K. Can target specific periods of influence throughout the growing season via precision placement techniques. In other words, don't try and fling all your fertilizer out there in the fall. It ain't gonna be there when that plant needs it. You can use products from Nature's and put it out there when the plant actually can utilize it, get your crop there, save money, get more bang for your fertility buck. All of a sudden, you've got a solvent farming operation. And that's going to be very important in a year like 2025 and beyond because these ag cycles going downward usually last for a while. You should be really smart about your fertility. Nature's can help. Also, by the way, you can go and check that out at natures.com. If you are not a member of XtremeAg and you want to become a member for $750 a year, you know what? You'll get access to Kelly Garrett and Mike Evans. You'll get data at the end of the year that the non-members do not get. And you also get special offers. Like, for instance, you can go to Commodity Classic with our friends Nature's. That's right. Nature's is paying for you. If you're an XtremeAg member, you'll go to Commodity Classic for free. Go to XtremeAg.farm to check that out. Go to Commodity Classic. You'll see me. You'll see Kelly. You'll probably even see Evans. We'll be in the Nature's booth, in fact. And also you can go and see Kelly get this award. So go to natures.com and check that out. How'd you get there? Okay, we talked about nitrogen reduction. That's a strategy you've been working on. Again, you've been practicing for that ball game for several years now. Practices, alteration of products, biologicals, all of the above. Evans, you're the agronomist. You can lead this off if you want. How'd you get there?
All the above. But I think the key was testing and validating stuff, using our testing methods, rapid soil tests, sap sampling in season has been probably one of the key things we've been able to use and learn and make these adjustments and get to the point where we're at today, because we started understanding nitrogen balance in the plant far greater than we had any time before that point in time. So sampling in season with the sap and being able to calibrate our applications to when the plant needed them versus just slinging stuff out there and kind of crossing your fingers at times. I always think of guys who side dress, especially top dress. Mm-hmm. We always try to plan around rain and fling it out there and hope a rain soaks it in. Right. So, we went more of a foliar route and using the saps to kind of say, hey, we need a little bit of nitrogen, but we also need the supporting minerals around that application, whether that be biology, carbon, micronutrients, to support that nitrogen assimilation in the plant.
Kelly, your practices, obviously, compared to what Gene Garrett did when you were a little kid, way less tillage. Does that help with the nitrogen thing? What practices can help you get there on still maintaining yield with a huge nitrogen reduction?
I do believe the no-till helps with the nitrogen because you're not disturbing that biology, that microbial system. You're letting it flourish, and they're trying to build that organic matter. I believe no-till is key. But then, as Evan says, the place to start, because everybody's farm and everybody's soil is going to be a little bit different. That rapid soil test to validate what's coming out of your soil. This is going to amaze most people. But in July, we've validated 3 years in a row now. There's over 700 pounds of nitrogen being mineralized organically in our high yielding areas. In a low yielding area, it's down towards 150 pounds, 200 pounds. It's infinitely variable. And you just need to realize what's coming out of your soil. And then that's the beginning of the fertility program. Okay. So let's validate what's coming out of the soil. Then let's use the SAT test to validate what the crop needs to be balanced. And the definition of balance to me is using 95% of the nitrogen that's going into the plant. We find plants to be way out of balance, then they get to be vegetative, or they even get to be diseased. I believe that excess nitrogen leads to white mold in soybeans. We have made applications of micronutrients to balance that or to help assimilate that nitrogen, and we've improved soybean yields 50% in cases. It really is about the balance. We don't need to apply nitrogen because the soil or Mother Nature applies it. We need to supply the micronutrients and the other products to help use that nitrogen and provide a balanced crop. And when we do that, and we can achieve that, and it's a challenge, we don't get it all the time, the disease pressure goes down, the cost of fertility goes down, the yield goes up, the health of the plant goes up, the quality of the product we're producing, all of that goes up.
Mr. Evans, on a different recording for your calibrated agronomy company, we've done the instructional, informative videos, and we talked about biologicals. So in this instance, can I cut back $50 of nitrogen spend and put in $15 of biological product spend and maintain yield? Does that sound too crazy to the person listening to this? Like, oh no, that'll never work, or will it work?
I think it works. Some of the philosophy we have is reducing that upfront load and utilizing it in other places. And whether that be biologicals in furrow or seed treatments, or, if you're side dressing, it's using that money in that side dress application and late season applications. We tend to historically do a lot of front loading, which would be like fall applied or right before the planter hits. And then you got all that season, try to capitalize on that investment. So we kind of look at it from an investment point as well, not only agronomically, but economically is, why don't you move some dollars into this where it's going to be more profitable on an ROI perspective? And it tends to be a lot better investment doing it that way than trying to cross your fingers and play it in October and get to August.
Kelly, you love talking about money, and you said the goal is profitability. Environmentalism, yes. Sustainability, yes. Regenerative practices, yes. Winning this award, that was very far down the list of the reason you did this. The goal, number one, is profitability. Is it your impression that most farms, if they could spend $30 less on nitrogen per acre, and all of a sudden that could be the margin? That could be the difference between break even and profit on an acre?
Yes. Like working with XtremeAg Financial Services, marketing and the CFO of the farm, like we talked about, my costs on average are $70 less than their average customer.
How much?
70.
70 less per acre.
And I would like to touch on what you talked about with Evans, because I want to push back a little bit. You said reduce $50 in nitrogen, add $50 in biology. I believe you can probably spend less than 50. I believe you can probably reduce your nitrogen by $50.
I said 50 and then spend 15. In other words,
50,
or maybe 50 and spend 10.
It's not, well, I misheard you. You said 15. It's not, I don't know that it has to be $15 in biology. I would tell you my first place would be $15 in micronutrients. Would be because agronomy to me is chemistry plus biology. When I mean chemistry, I don't mean rounded. I mean elements, I mean nutrients. And your chemistry side of your agronomy is out of balance. That's the definition of over-applying nitrogen. Just because it takes less zinc, less cobalt, less copper to produce a corn crop doesn't mean it's less important. The average grower has been led to believe that they don't want nitrogen to be their mitigating factor. Copper, cobalt, molybdenum, those are probably their mitigating factors. That's where that $15 needs to be spent first. Then let's talk about biology.
Yeah, and
Kelly, real quick though, can we ask Evans to say the word molybdenum? Because it's always fun for me to hear the agronomist mispronounce molybdenum.
Molly? Okay.
Molly. You call it Molly, but what's Molly short for?
Molly.
Go ahead, Evans.
But to Kelly's point is, like, if you overload, say you go put 240 pounds of nitrous on the soil, you're overbalancing this, you're creating an imbalance in the soil, and you can actually, from an agronomically or soil function, suppress other nutrients. Like calcium gets locked up because you're putting on all this nitrogen. Your micronutrients especially copper, get tied up because you got all this nitrogen and you're overbalancing the soil to the wrong way. And you tie up key things that the plant needs. And then when it takes up all this nitrogen, it don't have the nutrients to handle what you've done.
You're going to go, by the way, he still never said molybdenum. I mean,
never will.
I didn't hear him say it. I never did. You're going to go 100% corn in 2025 because you've already made the calculation, cost of production. You finally factored it in, said, I'm not making any money on soybeans. Obviously, Iowa, it works. But there's always the nitrogen issue. This award taught you this last 3 years of you doing trials and practicing this. Now you're going to apply that broad acre. So you are truly putting your money where your mouth is. So the person says, oh, well, all right, you're going to put literally thousands and thousands of acres out and reduce nitrogen. How much of what you did for this award are you going to do across thousands of acres?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, because the way that we got this award is the way that we farmed every acre for the last 3 years, and we'll continue to farm it. And this award was also done on a corn field. And part of the audit that we had to go through to validate our nitrogen uses, we had to be less than 180 pounds of nitrogen this year, and we had to be less than 300 pounds last year. They also asked the question, well, how many pounds of nitrogen did you put on the corn crop last year? And I said, it was the same. It was the same. So this isn't a 1 year deal, and we didn't do anything special to win this award.
Sure.
We farm every acre the way that we farm this acre. And when we achieve balance, when we achieve assimilation of nitrogen, and when we achieve balance, this is what happens.
Okay, so
do we achieve it on every acre? No, not always.
What do you think in 2025? What do you think, Mike Evans? What will your recommendation, your prescription be on applied nitrogen across all of the thousands and thousands of acres that you're going to have in corn next year? What will the recommendation be on average? I know you do variable rate.
That'd be probably 180 pounds average on the farm.
Okay,
across everything.
Your county proven yield is like 225. So you're nowhere close to the 1.1 or 1.2 that people think.
No.
So you might very well do a 240 bushel corn average in 2025, assuming you get some rains, and you might do that with 180 pounds. Is that a reasonable statement? The goal for 25?
Yeah. I mean, that's across, 6,000 acres. So there's going to be a lot of variability, and we variable rate everything. So, well, they're going to have, we taking point, Garrett's got some dry land that we put on probably 120 pounds a couple of years ago. Weather worked right. And it was 315 or something that spot was. And so you do the math on that. I mean, that to me is the gold star right there. And you plan for the weather to handle it. And that's the weather worked out and we hit a home run. The weather didn't work out, probably been 260, 280. So
the 300, we also won the state of Iowa in the no-till irrigated category, Damon, with a 335 bushel yield. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but there's no doubt in my mind we're less than 180 pounds there. Last year, we third in the nation at 377 in the no-till irrigated category. There's no doubt in my mind it would also qualify for Class J.
So both of you can address this. We all know how ag works. We've all been there, whether it's at the tavern or the co-op or the coffee shop. Yeah, well, that works for you. That won't work for me. That works for you, but that won't work where I farm. Oh, that's easy to say when you're in Iowa, but you don't know what kind of soil I farm. So address that. And by the way, we're not in any way being judgmental. We know that soils are different. We know that climatological issues are vary from one part of the Corn Belt to the other part of the Corn Belt. But there's always the tendency to say, even Matt Miles will admit that his always initial reaction is that won't work. That won't work. And then what's he always do? He finds out that it'll work.
Temple Roads is doing it in Maryland, as are many farmers in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. And we just did it on 20 acres at Matt Miles. It wasn't just a test plot. We just did it on 20 acres at Matt Miles, and we're going to do it again this year.
And you said you spent $50 less. Almost all of it was on reduced nitrogen, and you were within a bushel of Matt Miles.
We were half a bushel better than Matt, and we spent $50. And I can't remember. Mike can probably remember, but I believe we made like 240 or we made somewhere around 240 or 250, and I think it was on 0.6 of a pound of nitrogen. It was more than what we have in Iowa, but the soil there isn't as good. And so down, Matt always believed he had to supply 1.1 pounds.
Yep.
We out yielded Matt by a half a bushel with 0.6 of a pound of nitrogen applied.
Evans, you generally work in Iowa, but now with your new role in calibrated agronomy, you're getting calls from Nebraska, Missouri, et cetera, et cetera. So the call that you get that they say that won't work here. What's your response going to be?
It works. Works about anywhere. Really, we got customers, 20 miles from Kelly that are doing it. Our counterpart Clint Freeze out in Illinois, he does it all day long, with their program. I can't speak for their operation, but I know he called me this fall and he ran one field that I think the average was about half a pound a bushel of nitrogen. Half a pound of nitrogen per bushel, on his farm. And I think that was like 260 corn. So, our good friend Garrett talks about agronomy is universal. It travels everywhere, and soil chemistry is soil chemistry. And that does not change. The math does not change. You just got to have the data to input into that math to understand what you need as an output. So, just like we did with Matt down in Arkansas, was the same concept. We knew the soil wasn't going to be as bountiful on producing its own nitrogen, so we had to change our plan up. But it's just being realistic and knowing what to do when.
I think we're going to leave it there, Kelly, unless you have anything to contribute on this.
Before you say it won't work there, you need to do a rapid soil test and validate what's coming out of your soil, and then look at a balanced program. And can you do exactly what we're doing? Maybe, maybe not, but I'm sure you can make an improvement somewhere. Yeah. You don't have the information yet to be able to make that statement.
Got it. By the way, if you enjoyed this, there's literally hundreds of episodes. I've been shooting these for 3.5 years, and they're all free at XtremeAg.farm. So it's like a video library that's free. Go and check it out. Topics from everything that happened on your farming operation that you can benefit and apply to your farming operation immediately to farm better. Also, there's videos from the field days. There's videos that these guys shoot. There's videos that I'm involved in at their events, and it's all free I told you can become an XtremeAg member. It's only $750, and you can go to Commodity Classic for free. I'm going to be there, courtesy of our friends at Nature's. I'm going to be there. Kelly's going to be there. I think Evans is going to be there. The other thing I want to remind you, if you are a fan of what we're doing here at XtremeAg, check out our new series called The Granary. It's shot at my granary. That's right, my on-farm hangout and tavern, where I bring the guys in for a round table where we just hang out. We talk about issues impacting you, farming, agriculture, family, generational stuff, money, big picture stuff, and also the personal side of it. And it's really a lot of fun. You can basically, pull up a chair and pour yourself a drink and pretend you're right there with us, because we're talking about stuff that's pertinent to you. So check out The Granary. You'll eventually see Kelly. You might even see Evans on The Granary. It's a lot of fun, and it's going to be a great time for you to take that time. It's a little less formal than some of our other stuff. So anyway, check it out. Till next time, thanks for being here. He's Mike Evans with Integrated Ag Solutions and Calibrated Agronomy, and the other guy is Kelly Garrett. You know him. I'm Damian Mason. Till next time, thanks for being here.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.